so we guys got some moves. Anybody else got moves?
Who's that sexy thing I see over there? That's me.
Woo!
Standing in the mirror.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies. That's one of my favorite songs. Remember we talked last night about those haters and the people that want to naysay and all that? That's the song I play. I wake up every day and I think, if I were you, I'd want to be me too. So it's my kind of like clap back. So how is everybody? Good. So I want to do some shares. I want to know how last night went. I want to know, what did you learn, or what was your biggest takeaway from, maybe sharing what your offer. Some of you that weren't here last night, we actually were talking about when you are offering services and programs and products, have somebody else sell you your stuff. Because the perspective shift that you can get from that is monumental. And so the homework was, write out what your offer is and your price, and have somebody switch with you and sell you your program. I think that this is so essential because we get so stuck and so focused on, here's what I have to offer, and I hope that the market will bear it, and oh my gosh, what if, and all this stuff. But actually, if you open that up and you have somebody reflect it back to you, you can see how valuable you are. So, who wants to share? Who wants to share about what they learned, what they discovered, maybe what came up from them yesterday? Am I going to be the only one up here talking? Raise your hand. Come on.
I'll stand next to you if you want to share.
She'll hold your hand with the microphone. I'm going to wait till somebody shares, so we'll stand here. All right, there we go.
I didn't know I was supposed to share with somebody last night. I wrote it out.
Okay. Here, hand it to me.
All right.
Give it to me. I'll sell you on you. And I'm a really good salesperson, so look out.
I'm sorry?
I'm really good at sales, so let's look out. When I work with individuals like you, we will identify your big goal or dream with absolute clarity. How much would that be worth to you?
That'd be worth a lot.
I'm sure there's a lot of things that you're not really clear on in your big goals and visions for the next few years.
No, I struggle with that, trying to narrow it down.
And I bet sometimes it can be really difficult when you're like really focused and looking at it, but you don't have the outside feedback and perspective of maybe tweaks.
And sometimes I think I want to do things, but I'm not sure I will be able to, but I still want to do it.
Yeah. And I think that probably is true for a lot of us, because I know for me it is as well. There are times, I have big goals, and people would think, oh my gosh, you really struggle with that? And I do. And I've been there in the same place that you are. But what I do know is that I know the route to the top of the mountain. And I know how to guide you from point A to point B. So we're going to identify the number one obstacle getting in your way. Are you aware of some of those obstacles? I know last night we did some work around this. Did you come up with something that's been getting in your way?
Fear.
Fear of what?
Fear of failure.
Who else in here is afraid to fail? I'll put 2 hands up because I'm totally all in with that. I completely agree. Do you know how scary it was to put on this event in another city and fill it for complete strangers? It was scary. And I risked a lot of failure. And a lot of people didn't show that we're going to be here. I had more people on the list. I had a lot of things. And when I really thought about it, this isn't a failure. This is my people. The right people are in the room. So I get what it feels like to be afraid to fail. So we're going to walk through that together. And then you're going to rewrite the way you think about yourself and create a new self-image. What would it feel like to wake up and look in the mirror and go, wow, I am a rock star?
I'd feel like a rock star.
Who's laughing over there? Do you not wake up and look in the mirror and say, I am a rock star? Because let me just tell you, I do that. How would that feel?
It would be the most wonderful feeling in the world.
Awesome. And we're going to do all of this in 20 days?
27.
27 days. So you said it would be invaluable. So what I know is that calling and that yearning and the things that keep you up at night, that fear, that not having the clarity, not knowing where to go, it's not just going to affect your business. It's going to affect your relationships with your family, your children, your colleagues, your friends, because you're going to show up a little bit differently. And what I know is that in those 27 days, people are going to see the change in you, and they're going to want to work with you as well, because they're like, wow, I've seen what you've done, and now you know the route to the top of the mountain. You're my person. You get me. Do you want to know what it takes to work with me?
Absolutely.
So for those 27 days, it's going to be $4,800. How would you like to pay for that today?
I can put it on a credit card.
Awesome. And let me tell you, it's worth more than $4,800, just to be clear.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that. Thank you, Erin.
Yes, give it to Julia. What did you guys, how did that feel? Just even watching somebody else do it, because maybe some of you didn't do it. How many didn't do their homework? Yeah, I thought so. How did that feel? Like just watching somebody do that, how did it feel? Throw it out there.
Positive. Very positive.
Yeah.
Educational.
I love it. So, you did do your homework because you just did it. So good job. Who else? Who else had something that came up yesterday, maybe when we were talking about breakthroughs and what's getting in our way, maybe something that came up for you when we talked about what do you have to offer, or who do you think you are to offer things like that? Or even some of the things I talked about. When you watch people offer from stage, why, instead of going, someone's trying to sell me, why not like take the wall down and go, wow, that was awesome. I like how they did that. I'm never doing that, right? That doesn't fit my personality, but that does. Ooh, I really like that. So who else has something to share from last night or yesterday? I'm just gonna stand here, because I know people got some stuff. Yes, girl.
I don't really need a mic, but here we go. Your quote that you love that says, you can't be a lighthouse for others if you can't keep your own lights on. I think that would really apply to almost every single one of us that are working one-on-one with clients. Those are fighting words for people's health, for people's mental health, for their image, for everything about them, for their marriage, their family, the kids, right? And as women, I feel like we just endlessly pour out for others, and we're like drained. Yeah. So when you can fight for someone and say like, can you keep your own lights on? How are you gonna make an impact if you're drained, baby? That, to me, those are some closing words.
Thanks.
It's good.
Yeah. It's true, because, we all have been around that salesperson that has that commission breath, right? They're like so desperate to sell you, you can feel it when they like come near you, right? And so when you can't keep your own lights on, that's what you're producing. So then when you're like, I'm so amazing, this is so awesome, come and join me, please pay me because I need the money right now. That's what comes off. We felt it, right? Come on, right? We've all felt that. So it's important for you to have a sustainable business so that you don't have those feelings when you're asking for other people's money, right? When you're asking someone to invest in themselves. The other thing is, which I love, is the full circle. If you do not invest in you, do not be pitching anyone to invest in themselves. That is not okay.
Yes.
Because it is one thing to say, yes, please, I'm amazing, I got all this. But I have like 5 different coaches in different areas. After I leave here, I'm hiring a personal trainer and a health nutrition coach. And because I know that my body's been run down for the last month trying to do all this stuff, and I was like, oh, I need some support. And I have a business coach, I have a sales coach, I have specific coaches for specific things, because it's things I want to get better at. Did you hear that, guys? I said I have a sales coach, and I just sold somebody her program back for more money, right? I am great at sales, but I want to be better. So I'm always investing in myself. Now, the cool thing is, when you do hire a coach, it's so much easier when you're going to pitch somebody. So if you say, hey, my program's $4,800, and they go, oh, that's a lot of money. And you go, I know. Like I shared yesterday, I paid $20,000 for a video to be a Facebook ad. Talk about it. That's a risk, right? And when I say that, I'm like, I know that same feeling in your gut when you have that calling that you want to work with that person and you don't know how you're going to do it. I have been there. It's so much easier to say that. And what it does is the universe opens up the flow. So we're going to use some words interchangeably. I like to use universe, God, interchangeably. Whatever the word is for you, don't close your ears and go, I can't hear that word. Just you insert your own word on that one, okay? But the universe really is providing for you. When you put money out, money comes back. And I'll tell you, when you invest and you go, okay, that means I have to make this amount of money every single month so that I can pay my coach and my bills. Okay, I gotta get to work. It pushes you faster and quicker. And I'm telling you, you get faster results because of just that energy. And every time I've invested in myself, of course, right before that, I said things kind of fall apart and I had to rent a U-Haul truck to drive across the state, right? So the obstacles come up to test you, but then you go, no, this is what I wanted. I'm staying with it. I'm not talking myself out of it. I'm not self-sabotaging. I want this. The minute you do that and you command that, those obstacles disappear and the money flows. So I just wanted to reiterate that today as well. Is there anything else that anyone got out of yesterday? Yeah. Julia?
So the exercise with the chopsticks and the business card?
Yes.
What was really interesting is that I do this for a living and I coach other people on this, and so I wasn't getting anywhere. And you said you're focusing on the obstacle, not on where you want to be. It's like, oh my gosh, here I am, and this is what I tell other people all the time, and I'm not getting it. So it was just kind of an eye-opener. It was really good. And it's a visual I won't forget.
Yeah, and so the things that I have, this is a trigger mechanism. That chopstick that you take home, if you chose to take it home, there's more if you want to break some and try to do it again. I have trigger mechanisms all over my house, all over everywhere I go. This is a constant reminder for me to receive love from others and for myself. This was something when I broke through my self-worth and not being enough, like I shared yesterday about not enoughness. This is a trigger for me to remember that. So it's permanent, so I look at it all the time. I've actually bent rebar with my throat. Wow. So the way this happens is there's a rebar that's probably about this wide, and you put it on the soft spot of your throat. You stand opposite of somebody else, and you count. You lean in, and you're holding it with just your throat. 1, 2, 3, and you commit, and you both push, and it bends it in half. On that soft spot that hurts, right? It takes you to that part of instinctually, I can't do this. That fear mechanism of hurting yourself to then breaking through. I have that rebar sitting in my office. I have broken arrows. I was gonna try to get arrows and we were gonna try to break arrows, but we did not. I was like, liability insurance. Yeah, I don't know. So chopsticks worked anyway. But it's true, I have those things around, so I remember. I need triggers to remind myself of how powerful I am. Because not every day can I walk on fire, but I've done it. Done it twice, actually. And I don't remember that experience unless I have something in front of me that goes, oh yeah, remember? Right now you're coming up against the wall and you don't know what the next step is. And remember, you walked on fire, girl. You got this. So take these things and use them as trigger mechanisms because they really help. And I'll tell you, the first time I did it, I tore the thing 6 or 7 times and the person came up to me and whispered, "You want to do it the hard way, huh?" And I was like, that's my freaking life story. I always do it the hard way. And I was like, ah! I was more angry, but that's the thing. Those are the things that we don't realize that are getting in our way, right? That it was so obvious. And I was like, oh man, okay, I'm gonna do it the easy way. I have the easy life. So I have an easy button on my desk to remind me that's easy. So those are important things. Taking these experiences and making them real and putting them into your everyday life, because that's really important for you. Like, who was it we were sitting outside, we're talking about, instead of looking at your failures, we look at the successes that we've had and really examine it and use those things to propel yourself forward for your next goals. It's powerful stuff, right? So, all right, enough shares. I won't torture you anymore. Do you have something? All right, go ahead, Margaret.
So you said you should close 30% of the room, and I think that's what I'm really excited to learn about.
Yeah, what would it change for you if you were actually in some of your events and some of the things you're doing to actually close that much of your room?
Well, I think that would definitely change my whole business and really, grow it faster.
Yeah, and what it does is it's not so much about the money, it's about serving others, right? Because I'm not in this for money, guys. I can go get a job, I can do other things, but I'm not in it for money. I'm here because I know I'm a servant to help all of you get your message out. Like I said yesterday, every day that I wake up and I know that I get to change the world by helping you get your messages out to the world, however big or small, doesn't matter. I know that we get to make a ripple effect on the planet that way. And I know that I can't change the world and fix the world by myself, that I need people like you doing that same work. All right, so let's get some stuff going today. Let's see if this is gonna work for me today. You are going to work for me today because it's really gonna happen. So let's talk about back to communication. I really want to talk about this is everything I teach when it comes to speaking. This is what corporate people hire me for. This is what's in my program. This is how I make you the most impactful. And like I said, everything comes from my psychology background, going to school to be a therapist. This is the stuff that people are teaching maybe in pieces. You might get a vocal coach that just teaches vocal tonality. I had one. His name was Roger Love, top vocal coach in the world. I had a storytelling coach, Mr. Bo Eason. Some of us in here have worked with both those guys. The nonverbal communication is also some stage stuff, so that also, and then the words. Now, it's really funny, on my tour that I did in California, I spoke to a lot of Toastmasters. So I have some Toastmasters in the room, right? Yep, got it. The ums and the ahs don't matter. If I say any ums and ahs through the whole morning, I don't even know if I have. But when you're compelling enough, nobody cares. If I forget what I was gonna say, nobody cares. Because they don't know the words. They don't know your script. They don't know what you were trying to portray. And even if I forget something in my talk, say I skip one of those steps when I'm talking about, I'm like, oh yes, I forgot. Let me go back to, that's the other piece of the tonality or whatever that is. Nobody knows. You're still delivering that information. So let's talk about, this is what we're taking in. We talked yesterday about nonverbal communication, but I'm gonna show you some more about stage. So I want you to just feel how different it is. I know we talked about like being closed body language and all that, but what does it feel like when I'm back here? Do you feel connected to me? Do you feel like I'm putting a distance between us? But if you've noticed, like I said, I spend all of my time on the front 2 feet of the stage. I know exactly where it is. That's why there's black on the front. I can see that out of my periphery. I know exactly where it is at all times. Now, we talked about how people do this. When I worked with one of my TEDx clients, she was the lead counsel for Starbucks in the past. So when she wanted to practice her talk, she's like, today we're going to talk about money. Money is the topic of today's conversation. Like, this isn't a jury. So 2 things for you to pay attention to. That side of the stage, so let's just do this. The right side of the stage. Remember last night when I was telling my story about being 10 years old, my very first speaking engagement, my dad's funeral? Where was I? The right side of the stage for you as a performer is the past. When I want to talk about how it was the worst day of my life, but it also led me to believe that you can create with telling your stories, you could move people to emotion. And when I said that, I was over here. Because this is the present moment, this is what I do for a living, right? So now if I tell you, so now let's say I'm in the middle, this is like a couple hours later, and I go, so when I was a kid, you're like, wait, that just feels weird because she was a kid over there. Do you see how how that feels? So I know that it's not something that most people talk about, but right side of the stage is your past. Left side of the stage for you is your future. Land those points, land those stories in those areas on the stage. It helps land that for the people because you could be jumping all around in all your different stuff throughout the day, but this is your anchors for people to know what mindset you're coming from, who you are. Because if I'm like talking about being very powerful, and then all of a sudden I come over here and I talk about not being enough and feeling like I was stupid, right? You're like, wait, that doesn't make sense to who she is today. Because I'm over here, it's in the past, it's okay. right? So think about that. Now, this is gonna be hard for you to see, so you might all wanna stand up, because I'm actually gonna show you my feet. This is how you walk on stage. You don't turn, remember? Do you feel connected to me right now? No. Your body stays open, right? So sometimes it's just a few steps. So it would be, and you land, and you come over here and you talk. And then if you want to do it again, you can come over here and talk. But you never walk across the entire stage. And even if I'm doing, see the sideways walk that I'm doing? You can still feel connected to me. You have no, it doesn't matter. I'm doing lots of different feet motions so you can see that there's different ways of doing it. But this is the way you want to walk on stage. And now you can continue to watch my feet the entire day. But you're going to learn that this is how you do that. And when I talk about it, I love to say, okay, I'm going to talk to this side of the room. And then I'm going to make another point, and I'm going to connect with this side of the room. And then maybe I'll come over here, and I'll scan around, and then I'll find somebody to connect with and talk over here. And then I'll come over here and make sure that everybody is included in my journey. Because a lot of times, the people are like, yes, 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 and they're talking to the heads, and no one's really connecting with you. But have you seen me pay attention to you? Does everyone felt like I've connected with you at least once in the last 24 hours? Yeah. It's because I've paid attention. And even if I look here, if I look at this gentleman here, the people around you are also going, wow, she's talking to me. Because you all feel it, right? That's how you do that. That's how you connect with people in the room, with your nonverbal communication. That's how you take the stage and you walk the stage. It's really important to never turn your heart center away from your people. Never turn your back to your stage. How does this feel? Even if I'm telling a story, like, what the heck am I doing over here? You're over here. The reason I show you these things, because I want you to feel it as the audience so you understand what's in it for your audience as well. Okay, so everything I teach, I will show you, and then I will show it to you again in the context that you can feel it and understand what you felt when I did it. Okay? So nonverbal communication. So it's 50% of what you're taking in is all my nonverbal communication. I was sitting outside, last night I was sitting with someone and she's like, you obviously are really confident. And I was like, yeah, I sure am. And how would she know that? Did I tell her I was confident? Did I show her I was confident? Did I show you all I was confident yesterday in everything I did and how I carried myself? Yeah. I showed you I had nothing to hide, right? Open body language, nothing to hide. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick. This is my favorite thing, and it's the best thing to do on video as well. So now you're going to be obsessed with watching my eyebrows for the rest of the weekend, and that's okay. Your eyebrows communicate way more than you ever believe. Think of this. Somebody hot walks in the room. Yeah, your eyebrows go up. When you do this from stage or do it on video, people feel you're interested in them. So if I look at you and raise my eyebrows, you're like, wow, she's really connecting with me. She sees me. She validated me. This is a validation point. See that? Can you feel that, how it changes? So here's what happens. This is really hard for me to do. Still, I have to practice. So this is my normal eyebrows. And of course, they're painted on even better so you can see them more because I'm so fair-skinned. But if I don't, I always have to talk very monotone when I do this because it's really hard not to move my eyebrows. This is where my eyebrows naturally lay. But here's where they usually are, right here. Half cocked, you see more of my eyes. And then I use them to go up and down. But I never go all the way back down to, it's hard to do that, man. It's such a habit. This is it again, right? So you can see how impactful it is. It's like having a two-way conversation with your eyebrows. Who knew that your eyebrows were so important? But this is the little keys that you have no idea that are either affecting you in a positive way or a negative way. Because if I was to sit here, let's see if I can even do this without animation either, and just really have a conversation about how important body language is and nonverbal communication and facial expressions are, and I wasn't showing you any, you're like, what's going on? When someone says they're happy or they're telling a happy part of their story, what are they? Oh yeah, I was so happy, it was amazing. When you do that, we're talking about nonverbal, if I say, it was the saddest day of my life, we do this. This is what people do. Because we're up here on a show, and the problem is, instead of going, It was the worst day of my life. My daddy's funeral. But I was so excited to share with everyone the stories of my dad. Do you see that? I'm in alignment with my body language and what I'm feeling. If you're happy and you know it, let your face know it. Or have face show it. Because it's like, I see people like, yes, it was so amazing, it was awesome, and they just keep talking and they're doing this thing, but they never smile about it. If you're reading something, if you're memorizing it, think about it. What were the feelings you were feeling? Experience them in your body. You just saw me take myself back to being 10 years old and actually being on the front of that room at my dad's funeral so I can get attached to what that felt like so that it comes off to you as real, because it is. But if I was in my speaker, persona, because so many people have a speaker persona, and I was like, yeah, it was the worst day of my life, man. It just doesn't feel real. And that's what you see a lot of. So bring your full self to the table. Bring all of your emotions, all the things you feel. When you're feeling them, when you're talking about them, feel them, be there. Now, I'm not saying cry on stage and fall apart and like bawl and lose that, but there are some things, and we'll talk about that in storytelling, about what stories to tell and what stories not to tell. It's okay. It's okay to be, oh, Debbie's not in here. We do this thing that my girlfriend and I and a couple of us, that we have to throw in words throughout the week. Okay, Amy, I was verklempt. So they make me throw in words that I have to say, and I was like, I was gonna say it. No one's in the room to verify it. But that's always fun too, to put people on their feet, like, give me something I have to say, and I'll throw it in there somewhere. It makes it fun. But truly feel your feelings, be up here, and let people know your authentic self. Now, one of the things about nonverbal communication and speaking in general, and I said bring your full self to the table, who you see here is who you see if you watch any of my videos. It's who you see when I'm with my children. It's who you see me with if we're sitting outside having a drink last night. Did anyone see that I came off stage and was a different person? Bring yourself to the game. Do you know, I struggled with the word sexy and feeling sexy, and I know it's a silly thing, but it was something that was hung up for me. So I was at a personal development thing, and Pam, I don't know if you know this, but at Principia, I asked all the men, because it was women's leadership and men's leadership graduates. We'd all done deep work, and I said, gentlemen, I need some help. I need to know what sexy means. And they all said, oh, you. And I was like, that's not what I'm going for here. And they're like, no, listen. When you walk into the room, people notice. They feel you, and you are authentically confident, loving person everywhere I see. You are always you. It never changes. I always know what I get with you. That's hot. That's what sexy is. That's why you're sexy, Erin, because you are just really you. I know a lot of the women in the room get all insecure and feel weird, maybe even up here like, just bring yourself. I'm not a size 2 and I'm not perfect, but I am fucking amazing, excuse my language. And I own that. So just own who you are. We're gonna have dance breaks today. I'm gonna bring a little bit more of my full self. Yesterday I was feeling so tired, but I was still bringing it for you guys yesterday. But I wanted to bring more of that today for you. More energy, more fun, more of my playful self, because I was a little still caught up in, I almost missed my flight and wasn't here on time. So let's bring our full selves to the game when we're using our nonverbal communication. I'm afraid to click it more than once. Vocal tonality, vocal variance. So this is really important because most people have no idea what this even means. So there are 4 parts of this, but this really truly is 30% of your speaking. This is on the phone, this is with your children, this is in your one-on-one conversations, this is on stage, this is everywhere you are. You need to know how to use your vocal variance to be memorable. All right. So I'm going to talk about something real quick. So fellas, I'm on your side for a few minutes. I'll come over here. So I'm going to be really transparent, then I'll go back to the women. Men can't hear us. Here's the reason. It is not their fault. They are not listening to us. But if we come up here on the high sound and they're talking like this, do you think they really want to pay attention to this? No. If you're sitting at a boardroom table and you say, I have an idea, why don't we help the rainforest? And they go around the table and then Bob's like, hey, I have an idea, why don't we help the rainforest? They're like, that's awesome, Bob, that's the best idea. How many women have here ever experienced that? Don't blame them. So when we're children, we all have the same tone. And then boys hit puberty. They start tuning out their mom, their siblings, their friends, their girlfriends, their wives, all of this. They start tuning out the higher sound of our voice if we're up here in our head voice. So this is your head voice, so go really high and you can just say, hello, really high and feel your forehead. Hello, you can feel the vibration up here, okay? Now come into your chest voice and say hello, hello. And I'm not sounding like a man, I'm just deeper in my deeper register. So men hear each other because they come from the same place over here. Hey fellas, I got an idea, let's help the rainforest, right? So men, you're off the hook, but now you know you cannot keep doing that. All right, ladies. Now over here, ladies, drop your voice. And I'm not asking you to go, hey, how's it going? My name's Erin Loman-Jack. I want you to just be in your lower register, down into your chest voice a little bit. Have you noticed that I am just as engaged, the men are just as engaged as the women in this room because I embody this principle. Men hear me and go, wow, she really knows her stuff. And women go, I really want to be like her. That's happening because of the tones that I'm using. Now, that's only one piece. So now, if you're at the boardroom, or some of those that I know the Microsoft employees in here, now that you want to be heard, maybe by your boss or maybe your coworkers, what are we going to do? Lower our tone. So, here are the 4 parts of tonality. And I learned this from Mr. Roger Love, celebrity vocal coach in the world. Like, I didn't study voice and I didn't do singing and I didn't do any of that. I'm a mean karaoke star, let me just tell you that. Even Amy could attest that when we go to do karaoke, I'm always up in front, and I'm not the best singer, but I am a performer. I'm like getting everybody dancing, I'm running around the room. My girls are back there doing my backup dancers, it's hilarious. I'm bringing entourage. But I never knew anything about this, and when I found this out, I realized how impactful it was. Because we talked about, it was pitch that I was talking about, high or low pitch. Sorry, I was kind of off on that. So the tone is how much air. So here's another thing that can take away from our credibility, ladies. Hey guys, I'm here to talk about how we can help the rainforest, right? Oh, let's go back to physicality as well. Because when a lot of times women get power from this pose. But what am I accentuating? This is not a boardroom pose, okay? Boardroom, take me in all of my body because I'm standing up here, like I said, shoulders back. You take in the full thing, right? But what happens is with this, if you're like, hi, yeah, I really want to raise. Can I have a raise? How serious does that sound? But it also, if you're not using your air properly, you might run out of the air at the end. And then when you do that, you just kind of drop off and it feels like nothing matters at the end. And I just have no more air left. And so you're like, wait, was that important? I am the king of the world. See, and that's what happens when we run out of air. So it's really important to pay attention to how much air you're bringing in. Now, ladies, you're not gonna like this because this is where we have to be okay with our own bodies. So, when we belly breathe, you fill up the balloon in your belly. So it sticks out, and then all the air comes out, and your belly comes in. Now, the problem is most women are standing up here trying to hold their breath and suck it in, and they're like, hey, guys, I'm here to perform for you. I'm here to talk to you about speaking, and I can't get any air. You won't see me sucking in my gut, guys. That's what my Spanx are for. Because I need to get as much air through my body for you and for the message to be delivered. Now, when we talk about volume, I want you to pay attention to something. When we use volume, we can use it in ways that bring people in or really help resonate. If we've had speakers, and I'm going to attempt to do this with a microphone, it's kind of harder. There are speakers that come up here, and they're probably about this much in their volume, and it feels like they're kind of talking to themselves in a bubble because you can't feel any vibration. I can't feel any air coming out of my mouth or any sound waves this far out in front of me. But when I actually use the voice that I'm using now and projecting, you can all feel me. Amy can feel the vibration of my sound waves in her body from the front of the room. Even if I was to cover my mic and do that again, she would still feel that because I'm pushing the sound waves out. You want your audience to resonate with you? Volume is the way you do that. Because right now, and I even say this on my podcast because I'm like in the microphone, you can hear it now. You can feel the vibration of the sound waves in your body. So you are resonating with me, and you're like, man, I'm really resonating with her message. I really like her. And you don't know why? It's because you can feel me. That's something that most people do not do. They come up here and they be the speaker voice and they're doing their thing, and they're really just talking to themselves because it doesn't get to even where the chairs and the tables are. So really use your volume. Now, if I want to tell you a story about a time I was like scared, maybe it was something kind of personal. If I bring you in, you're really listening to every word that's coming out of my mouth because you're like, what is she going to say next? This is how you can use volume in the opposite way by taking it away so people are like drawn in. What happens is you can always do this. If you're like, so guys, I have a secret. And I haven't told a lot of people. All of a sudden, everyone's body language starts going, I'm leaning in, listening. So using these things are really important. Now the pacing, the rate, is how fast or how slow you say words. It's not like the average person speaks 120 words per minute. That's actually average. But it's more, and that does affect it, because who likes to go to a conference and they listen to somebody that's talking really fast and they don't really, you can understand what they're saying, and you have no idea, and there's no stops, no pauses, and you still have no idea what they said at the very beginning of the sentence because you're still trying to catch up with them. You lost everybody, right? When they're important words, let me just read out, feel your vibrations or draw them in. I could say, feel your vibrations and draw them in. Or I can say, feel your vibrations and draw them in. See how I pull out draw was a longer word than draw, right? When you want the impactful words, if you have a script, when I work with people, I help you write a script and then we write it in tonality. Because I want you to practice this, because where else are you going to learn to do tonality? You can't just go, okay, I'm going to practice all those things Aaron said. What was that stuff again? I have notes on this, but I don't know how to do it. But when we write your script, I write it in tonality so you can start practicing it and embodying it and using it all your communications. This is a habit that takes a while for me to break from you because we're so used to the sound of our voice. But how many of you hate the sound of your voice when you listen to it in a recording? Great. Guess what? So does everyone else. And so do the top singers in the world. Christina Aguilera hates the sound of her voice. So who cares about your voice? She's making millions on hers, and she hates the sound of it. So can we just throw that away now? Can we get that one out of the way? Who cares what it sounds like? It's going to sound different because what you hear in here resonates different than what you hear when it's reflected back to you in a recording, right? So just get over it. It's the voice you have. You can change it. You can work on it, but it's really not that important. Now, the reason this works and becomes memorable is I take you on a journey. With all of the things I've said today, I've been using all of these things intermittently because it's natural for me now. But the reason this works is because it actually, in psychology, it unlocks the episodic part of your memory. So if we were to turn on some tunes, right? How many could repeat the lyrics to at least 5-10 songs? Even if you haven't heard it in 10 years, you're gonna know the words, right? But do you remember what you ate for breakfast? Right? It's because when you do this well, you become memorable. People go, wow, she took me on this journey and I was like, oh, it's so beautiful and amazing. I was feeling all these things and I was resonating with her message. And you become memorable. Now you might have someone else that comes up here and speaks and they just do their thing and you might never connect with them. I told you I was ruining you from listening to other speakers, right? Sorry, guys. But now you're going to start to see how boring people really are. And here's the thing. Here's what we're normally doing. And we're talking about, but going back to the pitch, how high and how low. Here's our normal talking voice, and this is the talking voice that we usually use. And then a puppy walks in the room and we go, oh my God, it's a puppy! It's so cute! And we go really high. And then when we want the puppy to sit, and we go to our chest voice. We are boring the crap out of each other because we're in this middle voice all of the time. You are boring all of your clients, your customers, your colleagues, your family. You're boring them. So how would it be if you can enroll them in doing the dishes or cleaning their room, or because you're using tonality? I do this all the time with my children. They have no idea. It's a really good technique. So storytelling is 13%. This is my favorite part. This is taking the stories you have. It's taking my dad's story, the story I shared about my mom having malignant melanoma and sentenced to a year to live, and what I learned from that. And it's taking, my daughter, when I said yesterday that speaking too many times and being gone all the time wasn't what I really wanted to create in my business, because then I'm away from my daughter. And at 2, she would look at the phone, and she'd be at day 2, she's like, I'm not gonna talk to you anymore. I'm mad at you because you're not here, right? These are stories you can connect with. Oh, hi. I love that my thing is on crack speed. Okay, so storytelling is not about me. So let me go back to the story of my dad's funeral, since I've said that one, and now that we've said it again today. I was 10 years old. It was a standing room only. And I stood up there, and I was thinking, I don't know if I can get through this. I don't know if I'll be able to say what I want to say. What if people don't like me? And I was shaking. The words barely came out, and my hands were shaking on the piece of paper. And I began. All right, so what I just told you, that story, you've maybe never spoke at your dad's funeral. You might not have been 10 at the worst day and had the worst day of your life. But you know what it feels like to stand in front of a room and be scared? You know what it's like to have trembling hands? You know what it's like to feel like, I don't know if I can do this? So I just connected to you, and it wasn't about the story. Now the other thing is, let's talk about that little 10-year-old girl that did that. What are characteristics about her that you pull from my story? What was she? Who was I? Thoughtful. Afraid. Brave. Determined. Something you'd want to be in a relationship with, right? If I'm your coach, you want to know that I am going to be persistent and determined. You want to know that I'm going to be brave for you, and I'm going to help you be brave. I gave you characteristics of who I am and how I run my life in my story. I didn't stand up here and tell you, yeah, look at me in my yacht. It's so awesome, look at me, look at me. I woke up this morning, I got up, I opened my water bottle and I took a drink, and then I got up and I put my shoes on, and I, me. That's what most people do in storytelling. We've all seen it, right? Look at me, look at me. You don't have to do that. When you tell your story in a way that connects with every single person, I said you didn't have to experience that to understand what I was feeling, right? And you connected with me. But you also connected with all these amazing characteristics about who I am today because of that. So you don't have to brag. Your story does it for you. They get to make the decision about you on your story. So that is where they will be more enrolled in you, because they made a decision that you were brave. I didn't tell you I was brave. You told me I was brave, right? Does that make sense? Yes. So the 3 things that I say are the most important thing in connecting with any human on this planet. What was I thinking? Who has thoughts in here? Everyone's hands be up, come on. Who has feelings? Even you men, I know you have feelings. And you've experienced shaking. You've experienced, okay, let's talk about this, guys. Have you ever been so angry that your fists ball up, chest gets tight, and that vein starts popping on your head? Who in the room has felt that? Right? So they don't have to connect with what you're telling them in the story, but they connect with you as a human. That is the piece that people are missing in storytelling. They're connecting with you as a human because you get them, right? So these are the 3 things that are most important. And now let's talk about this, male versus female. Most males are thinkers. If I say, honey, how are you feeling about your grandma's death? He went, I don't know. And I said, well, what are you thinking? And he's like, I'm thinking I really miss her. This is why we're different. However, there are some women that are thinkers and feelers, right? We have both sides of both men and women have both sides. So being able to talk about both those things, even if it's the same sentence. I was thinking I wasn't good enough. I was feeling I wasn't good enough. And you can say them back to back and no one notices. Because it didn't connect with them the first time, but it connected with them the second time. Those are the most important things, because we really want people to understand you. And that's what those signs were. For the people that weren't here, this isn't about the Me Too movement. This was created before the Me Too movement. I still own that. Anytime someone shares a story that you feel like, oh yeah, been there, me too. This is the perfect opportunity to reflect back. And when you have other speakers up here, it helps them to know that their stories and what they're talking to is reflecting in you and you're really getting it and it connected with you. This is really great feedback for other people. And lastly, here's why this works so well. Because it actually releases chemicals. So yesterday we talked about the chemical releases when we're in fear and when we're scared and we're up here and all those things are happening. When you tell your story, think about this. If you sit on the couch with a girlfriend, you're having a glass of wine, or fellas having a beer at the bar, you're telling a deep story maybe about your childhood, your past. You get really connected with someone. You're like, I'm going to share a little bit about myself, right? I'm going to share with you about how I faced eviction at the beginning of my business. It was 2 years in, and I wasn't selling. And I didn't understand what was wrong, and I remember being on my son's floor going, God, I'm such a failure. I don't know what is not working. And my husband walked in, and he dropped papers on the bed, and he said, go get a real job. Time's up. You had your opportunity. It looks like you need to go get a real job. In that moment, I really felt broken. He was saying what I thought in my own head anyway. It wasn't like he was being, discourteous. He wasn't being mean about it, but he's like, you make more money than I do. You have degrees. I'm a 17-year vet. I don't have a lot that I can provide in the real world. You can make more money, so go get the real job, kind of thing. In that, and I share that story with you, when I'm telling it, and it's intimate to me, I release my own oxytocin. Because you're revealing something very vulnerable and personal about yourself. Now, when I get you in that same story, you went, wow, right? And you got connected to something there. You start going, she gets me, and she releases her oxytocin. Do you know what oxytocin is the best chemical for? When the babies, yes, mommies and babies and sex. But the sex comes before the baby. You should know. It is the bonding chemical that happens for mommies and babies. So how would you like people to be so connected with you? They feel bonded and they're like, I'm going wherever you're going. This is how you do that. So when you do that, you release your own oxytocin. When they're in their story, when you tell a story well enough that I'm like, like when I said about anger, when you feel like, I didn't say, when I'm angry, my fist ball up, my chest gets tight, and my vein pops. I said, when, and you're now going, oh yeah, I do know when. When you do this well, you actually deeply connect with people. And like I said, you're bonded, and people are like, this is how you get raving fans. It's all right. So again, the words don't matter. How many of you think, oh my gosh, I have to do a speech, and you sit down and write a speech? And you're so worried about the words. Words don't matter. Nothing I say this weekend is ever scripted. It is all in the moment, and I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth next, because the words are the least important to you. The ways that I make you feel. For those who were here last night, who felt definitely connected to me? Yeah. How many remember exactly what I said? Julia, you did not remember exactly everything I said, unless you're transcribing back there. Yes, right? So this is an important key, and this is why I kind of giggle when I was doing the tour and I was speaking at some Toastmasters, because at the end, there are some that wanted to evaluate me. So taking that off the table, anyone that's a Toastmaster, don't be offended here. when I did the work and I showed them all of this and I did this, they were like, it was amazing. And then the timer, or the person that's supposed to collect the ums and ahs and the likes and the mine is so, that's my word, my filler word. They were like, I don't know if you did any because I didn't write any down, right? It's not so important. Now, if you're up here going, yeah, and then, we all have heard that. That's totally distracting. But if I throw in a it doesn't really matter. And the reason we do these filler words, so many people struggle with this because a lot of my executives that I work with really struggle with ums because they're trying to remember their script. This is why I don't talk about scripts. I mean, we only do it to practice, but I don't really believe in knowing a script fully, is because you're thinking about what's next to be said. Okay, so let's go about normal conversation. I'm talking to you, Margaret. We're having a conversation, and then I'm not quite done, so I'm trying to figure out, holding space so she knows I'm not done yet. Now, this is what happens because we've all talked over each other so much that we use this word to say, don't talk, I'm not done yet. And even if you're up here, there's no two-way conversation, but it's a habit that you do on a daily basis, so you do it up here, right? So instead, use your tonality. If I am having a conversation and I am not done yet, I go up in my tone. Because you felt that there was something I was going to say next, right? I wasn't quite done, and now I am. So if you go up in your tone, you still hold that spot of giving yourself the time to finish your thought, and people will not interrupt you because they know you're not done. All right?